Well, good morning, Lifepoint. I hope you're excited about our gas buy down coming up this next weekend. If you've not signed up, you can do that on the Compass at Lifepoint.cc. We would love to have you all out there. What a great way to provide full service gasoline services like we used to have back in the 70s here today, and with $1 off their gas. So if you haven't signed up, please know that you are all welcome, and we would love to have you there. If you are the first time attending here at Lifepoint, we want to say welcome. We are so glad that you chose to worship with us this morning. We're going to ask all of you, whether you're new or not, if you wouldn't mind filling out your communication card and dropping it in one of the drop boxes that's located around the building, as well as our tithes and offerings. We can drop those in the drop boxes anytime while you're here in the building, or if you prefer to give electronically, you can do that at our website, which is Lifepoint.cc.
Isn't that special? You know, the first time I was able to see that, they said, we don't want you to see it until the weekend that you're going to use it. Now I know why, as they were making it. They'll go to any length, even harming themselves, to make us laugh and have fun. What a great media team we have. Hey, so when you were growing up, what was your favorite Disney movie? Just think about it. What was your favorite Disney movie of all time growing up? And in just a minute, I'm going to ask you to scream it at me, okay? I think church should be made for screaming, so I'm going to count to 3. Are you ready? Have you thought it through? All right. Now, the first service, there were more people in here. It was so loud. I think you guys need to raise the volume a little bit just to compete. Okay? Ready? 1, 2. I didn't realize they made a rah movie, but evidently they did. Excellent. That's exactly how it sounded. Mine was Peter Pan. What boy wouldn't like Peter Pan outside of the green tights? No offense to Keith, as he was sporting the throwback workout uniform. Super nice. Outside the green tights, Peter Pan was awesome. He could fly. He never had to grow up. Listen, did most of you as kids ever think adults were super boring? I didn't want to grow up, man. Keep me out of that rat race. Don't make me do that. Whatever that adult thing is, I don't want to do it. And Melissa's now going, that explains it. I didn't want to have to be like most of the adults I knew, and Peter Pan was able to fly. He had a villain, and he and all his friends got to fight the villain. I mean, that's cool. They had swords. That's cool. There was a chick in the movie, right? So there's a damsel and there's a villain, and he's the hero. All that made sense to me. I loved Peter Pan. It was my favorite Disney movie. It's interesting. I was preparing for this weekend, and I was reading about some of Walt Disney's uber hyper focus that he seemed to have. He was really connected with the pace and rhythm of his films, and he reserved the right to edit anything at will for the pace and rhythm of his films to deliver the intended result. So Ward Kimball, who was one of his original animators working on Snow White, spent 240 days on a 4.5-minute clip. 240 days is a long time. Now, this is before you were doing it on a computer with a mouse and all those things. So he's drawing out this animation for Snow White. And the clip, as I understand, was about the dwarfs making dinner for Snow White and creating a huge mess in the process. In Disney, he said he thought it was really funny and made him laugh, and he thought it was was really intriguing. But there's something that he chose to do which offended Ward Kimball, his animator. He chose just before production to take the clip out. Now, I don't know how you'd feel about that, but 240 days is a lot of time. And if you've ever worked with people that are really creative, they become very attached to the work a lot of times. And so it's hard for them not to take it personally when something hits the editing floor. And that's how Kimball felt. Disney made no apology. He said, "I'm making a hard choice, Ward, and I'm making a hard choice that only I can make because, see, this film will bear my name. Therefore, even though your feelings may be hurt, I will do what I deem necessary for the production of the film to be worthy of bearing my name. And I think the clip is funny, but it interrupts the rhythm." So he cut it. He cut it. Because Disney, as most business people that are creative like he was, understood that there's something that you have to do in life, and it's to make hard choices to protect the pace and rhythm for the outcome. Right? Pace and rhythm for outcome. Pace and rhythm for outcome. We don't do that very well in our own lives a lot of times, right? We keep a chaotic pace and we don't have a very good rhythm, and we wonder why the outcome isn't all that profitable. Even when we amass wealth or we amass experiences, we still don't always enjoy the outcome. Well, Disney didn't make any apology. He said, this is what we're going to do. He made the hard choice to guard what really mattered most. And as we break into this series called Get Fit, it really deals with this idea of wrestling with what really matters most. And it may make us uncomfortable. It's already made me uncomfortable in preparation. But I think it's easy to live like a lot of things don't matter, only to find out in the end they really did matter most. Read this statement and see if you believe it on this next slide. It says, "My social choices should represent my core beliefs." My social choices should represent my core beliefs. I believe that to be absolutely true. I believe that my social choices, the things I do where other people get to see it. See, character is defined by, I define character as this: the things you do when nobody else is looking to find your true character. When nobody else can see what you're doing, that is the deepest expression of your true character. But your social choices are those things you're doing where other people can see, where other people can view, where other people have a perspective and can watch what you're doing. That's the social definition, right? And so I believe my social choices should represent my core beliefs. But if I don't, so here's the dilemma. If I don't know what my core beliefs are, it's hard for me to have affirming social choices, isn't it? If I really don't know what it is I believe, it's hard for me to have affirming choices in the social realm. If I don't know what I stand for, it's hard for me to know what choices to make socially, right? If you don't know what you stand for, you'll fall for anything. My social choices should represent my core beliefs. You know, if I say that I believe that statement, if I say this, I really believe that my social choices should represent my core beliefs, then there's some accountability to that. But if I say this and I give myself the out, I don't know. I mean, I guess in an ideal world, but, I don't know. I think what I do socially shouldn't be pinned to my character. If we say we don't believe that statement, we're creating some space so that we don't have to be accountable. That's really what happens. Because I think it's hard to argue that the statement should be true for any of us. Your core beliefs and your social choices should pair. Matter of fact, the truth is I think they do for most of us, and that in lies the issue. So I want to talk about it. It's going to be uncomfortable, so let's just get comfortable being uncomfortable for a few minutes. I'll try to be good, I'll try to be quick, and I'll try to be done. Fair? Good. Thumbs up. The book of Luke, chapter 6, beginning at verse 43, Jesus begins talking about how we can tell what something really is, how we can tell the evidence behind what something truly is. And he says this, no good tree bears bad fruit. Would you say bad fruit? No good tree bears bad fruit, nor does a bad tree bear good fruit. Would you say good fruit? So Jesus right now is making a distinction that some fruit is good, some fruit's bad. In the culture we live in, it's almost like voodoo to say that anything isn't good. But he's making a distinction that some things are good, some things are bad, and he's saying it's kind of easy to see. Each tree is recognized by its own fruit. People do not pick figs from thorn bushes or grapes from briars. The good man brings good things out of the good stored up in his heart, and the evil man brings evil things out of the evil stored up in his heart. For out of the overflow of his heart, his mouth speaks, or his fingers type. Out of the overflow, out of the reservoir, out of what's stored, out of what has been stored back, out of that spills who he really is. And it's either good fruit or bad fruit, but you'll be able to know what he really is about by what they store. I think, it would be easy to look at that passage and go, man, I don't see the correlation between social things and the teaching that Jesus has there. And I would say it's a really easy correlation. Jesus is saying you judge a tree by its fruit. You judge a tree by its fruit. You determine what a tree is by what it produces. If it produces bad things, then there's something going on at the root level of the tree. Right? How many of you are connected to social media? I mean, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. There's this new thing called Yik Yak. I just learned that one. I think they ran out of names, right? They ran out of names. They're like, what will we call this Yik Yak app? I don't know. It's Yik Yak. All right, we'll call it that. Good job, Garth. Yik Yak, and there's all these new apps to be connected on social media, and it's interesting to me. How many of you have ever read somebody's status and just shake your head going, oh man, somebody should have got to them before they hit post, right? Do you ever read people's statuses and think, maybe they need a filter or a counselor or a friend or give somebody else their password and access to edit and delete? Anybody? It's crazy to me. It's crazy what people will put on social media. It's crazy. I've got this real weird, I love-hate relationship with social media. I'm a late adopter, right? I'm 44. I didn't grow up with computers. I was around when the first Commodore 64 came out. I didn't own one, but I envied people who did. And those were just blips on the screen. If you don't know what a Commodore 64 is, then tune me out for a moment. But those of you that know, this social media thing's been weird for us, right? It's been a little hard. But now we have hashtags. I remember when hashtags were pound signs, and they meant nothing like what they mean now. I'm on social media really for this reason, because I pastor a church that is filled with people that are younger than I am. Mostly are younger than I am. And it's not going away. We're raising teenagers that are being raised in this generation will never know what it's like not to be able to instantaneously post their thoughts and have everybody see them that follow them. They'll never know what it's like not to be able to and put it right on Al Gore's invented World Wide Web. They'll never know what it's like not to be able to just say what they think and have everybody know their thoughts. They'll never know what it's like not to be able to take a picture, make a smart aleck comment, and hit post. They'll never know what it's like to not be able to have a vendetta against somebody and make a snarky comment about them in a veiled passive-aggressive way to an entire audience without accountability. They'll never know what it's like. We're living in the most socially unfit time in our nation's history because we have so many things accessible to us, but it doesn't seem like we believe that my social choices should be speaking to my core beliefs, or rather my core beliefs should be speaking to my social choices. And we're raising a generation, and I'm the dad of 2 teenagers. You know what? There are times that our kids, they're on lockdown because I don't trust my kids not to sometimes make stupid kid choices on the World Wide Web, the WWW. I want to make sure that we're guarding the gate and we're helping them understand and we're helping them make wise choices because it matters. I want them to make sure and make wise decisions about what they post about themselves and others. Unlike my sister, who posts anything she takes. That was recently happening. Yep, there it is. Evidence of a birthday party that happened Friday for my mother at 76. All right, you can take that down. I look like MacGruber from the old SNL skit. There's only 10 seconds, MacGruber. Anyway, I was reading this morning. It was interesting, the timing, but I was reading on 10 TV had a post on their Facebook site that popped on my feed this morning, and it was how your social media life can keep you from getting the job you want or retaining the job you're in. And one excerpt from that, I mean, it's interesting. We act like nobody should ever have an opinion about what we do socially. We act like nobody else's opinion should even speak into what we do socially. And if we do something socially, that, nobody should have a judgment about that. But the whole watching world does. This is interesting. Paul Mollick said this. He said, social media activity has totally changed the way I screen potential employees, and he has a New York-based consulting firm called Fahrenheit 212. He said, the resume, while still useful, oftentimes is retrospective. So what we use is LinkedIn and all social media information that's out there to give us a more holistic picture of the individual. And this is interesting. The article went on to say a few other things, but I read a couple associated articles early this morning that said the one thing that they gauge from social media that they rarely can gauge in an interview is your real attitude. They can tell your attitude by what you post. And there's an algorithm that somebody at Yale or Harvard, one of them, put together, and they had like 800,000 participants who took this survey through Facebook, which I thought was interesting. I would never sign up to take that survey. Yes, please, watch me more carefully, big brother. Anyway, they've got this algorithm that they can track your likes, the things that you hit like on Facebook or other things that you follow, and they can determine things about you based on what you like, your likes and dislikes. I think it's interesting that there's that much emphasis going in from the marketplace to determine who you are based on what you do socially. Where before, what you did on the weekend, nobody knew about. What you did before when you were off work, you were off work. It just doesn't seem to play out that way anymore. But I want to ask this question. How does it play out for those of us who claim that we're followers of Jesus Christ? How are we representing the one we claim to follow? By the social things we engage. Now, I know this is a hot button topic. Welcome. If all I do is dodge topics that I think are important but sometimes controversial, I think you ought to find a different church because I wouldn't be worthy to be called your pastor. I'm always interested in I find humor in a lot of things, but if I posted everything like some people, you would be tired of me. But you know the real reason that I don't post everything about social and political stuff on social media? Because I don't think that's the best use of my time. And I don't think it's the best use of my influence. I don't feel that social media is where you should get to know the most about me. You want to know me better? Come to church on the weekends. I'm a pretty open book. Hang out with me at a coffee shop. I'm a pretty open book. But I also don't think there's going to ever be a political solution to the spiritual deficit in our country. This whole thing that's going on with ISIS, believe me, it is deeply religious. It finds its root right here. It's a religious war. It's not a poverty. It's not because of poverty at its base, even though the sitting president of the United States made that fallacy statement to me. They have amassed incredible wealth as a movement. ISIS and ISIL have amassed incredible wealth. But you know what? I'm not going to put all that on Facebook because that's not the place to have these forums. And I'm not going to, and some of you are looking at me like, man, that's a lot for a Sunday morning. I know, I don't say that all the time here. But it's not because I'm not somebody with a brain that has convictions and has beliefs. It's because what I do socially should speak to my core beliefs. And there's something I believe more that I want to talk about than that. Does that make sense? So here's what I believe more. Paul, who wrote a great deal of the New Testament, 13 books ascribed to his authorship, 14 if you argue in Hebrews. Paul, who had persecuted the church, becomes a Christian, a follower of Jesus, and now they're trying to kill him. The Jewish people want to extinguish Christianity. Paul plants more churches than anyone outside of Jesus, who wasn't into planting churches. He was into making disciples who would plant churches to make disciples. But Paul said these words in Galatians 1:10. He's writing to the church in Galatia, and he's using an argument form, right, a debate form. And so he poses a question in the very beginning. It's rhetorical, but it makes a statement. And he said this, am I now trying to win the approval of men or of God? Or am I trying to please men? If I were still trying to please men, I would not be a servant of Christ. He's saying, what if I were trying to make people happy, then it would be really hard for me to serve Jesus. If making people happy, to win their approval, was the sum total of what I thought my life was about, was making people happy, then I wouldn't be able to serve Jesus. Because see, serving Jesus will equate to sometimes not making everybody happy. I feel that tension all the time. And I think it's a profitable tension. Much like weights are a profitable tension. They provide a profitable tension if you want to get in shape, right? You can't make everybody happy and serve Christ. He's saying it's this vertical relationship, this internal relationship, this core belief system that impacts the external relationships, that impacts the social choices we make. That's what he's really getting to. 1 Corinthians 15, Paul also wrote that letter to the church in Corinth. He wrote 2 letters. Corinth, at the time of Paul's authorship, he had planted the church there. He'd gone to Corinth. Corinth was a landmass between 2 bodies of water, an isthmus, and it had the precursor of some of the Olympics. They had the Isthmian Games in Corinth. It had 2 ports, and it was a narrow landmass. Had 650,000 people, 250,000 free people, and some 400,000 slaves. It had the temple of Aphrodite there, the goddess of love. They had legalized prostitution within that temple to Aphrodite. It was a very culturally weird scene for a church to emerge. And Paul's writing to them. He's writing to them in chapter 15 of his first letter to the Corinthian church because he's heard how things got sideways after he left. And he's saying, in essence, listen, be careful who you're letting influence your life. He says it like this: bad company corrupts good character. Don't be misled. Bad company corrupts, it alters in a negative way good character. So if you're hanging out with people that are not adding influential value in a way that is beneficial, it will have a corrupting value over time if you're not extraordinarily careful. Be careful, bad character corrupts. Bad influence corrupts. Don't be misled. I'm really interested in who my friends hang out with. I'm interested in the company they keep. I'm interested to the point where I ask a lot of weird questions according to my kids. Nathan told me recently, after one of his friends was over hanging out, he said, "Dad, you have 2 spiritual gifts. One is preaching, the other is awkward." I ask them questions because I think it matters. I want to know who's influencing the choices our kids make. I want to know what their friends think about things that I think matter well beyond high school. Because I think the company you keep matters. I think the things that your friends stand for count. And if you're not careful, it's easy to be misled. It's easy to make dumb choices. I've told thousands and thousands of teenagers. When I was a youth pastor, I would travel and speak at camps and in different conferences. At some point in the weekend or the week, I would always bring this up. If you show me your friends, I'll show you your future. Those of you that have been around have heard me say it. Why? Because I think your friends have a direct impact on how you process life. They'll either be attic friends that lift you up or basement friends that drag you down. The influence you keep matters. And you know how I know that so well? All through high school, I was the bad company other people kept. I was the kid I wouldn't let my friends hang out with. I was the kid I would never let my daughter date. Bad company corrupts. But you know what? If I'm not talking to my kids about those things, if Melissa and I aren't willing to risk the conversation, who do you think is? You think any of their friends, "Hey man, what do you want your wife to be like?" No, they're not doing that. These teenage boys aren't thinking that way. Somebody has to call the question. Yeah, right. Okay, I'm going to just act like you believe it. Again, I'm out of notes. Hang on for the ride. What time do we have? Here's the bottom line. I want my core beliefs to speak to my social interactions. I don't want my social interactions to disqualify what people believe about my core beliefs. I want my relationship with Jesus to govern the relationships in my life. I want this relationship to dictate how I approach these relationships. And you know, I hang out with a lot of people that don't have a relationship with Jesus yet. I'm always hopeful. But I hang out with a lot of people that don't necessarily have the same core beliefs and values that I have. But you know what I don't allow them to do? I don't allow them to influence me to change who I am in Christ, to hang out with them. Does that make sense? I hope to add value and encouragement to their life, and that through my life and interaction with them, they can see some of the expressions of Jesus. That one day maybe they'll ask me, why do you do that? Or why is it this? Or why, whatever, right? But I want to leverage my life and my social interactions for the things that echo in eternity in a favorable way instead of an unfavorable way. But I want to raise them in a way where they're wise, not unwise. Paul wrote in Ephesians 5, don't be foolish, be wise, not unwise, because the days we're living in are evil. The days we're living in are messed up. The days we're living in make choices by how you feel instead of what has been foundationally true. The days we're living in seem to be built on this idea that whatever you feel like doing, you should just do that. I want our kids to have a centered understanding of who they are and what their mom and dad believe in so that they can lean in and grow in their own life. So here's what I'd like to wrap up with. I'd like us to take a social fitness inventory, and it's kind of simple and it'll seem a little redundant. One is, ask yourself this question: who do I allow to influence my social decisions? You know what I think is really healthy? I think it's really healthy sometimes to ask somebody that you trust, how do other people see me? And by the way, ask people that will tell you the truth. The most valuable people in your life are the people who care enough to tell you truth. The most valuable friends you have are the friends that care enough to tell you what is true, even when it may be difficult to hear. Those are the most valuable influences in your life. If you don't have those kind of influences, you should find some. You don't have those kind of friends, you should make some. If you don't have a friend that when they see a Facebook post come up on your page that makes you appear to be unconscious, you should make some. That's the nicest way I know how to say that. And ask the question, who do I allow to influence my social decisions? Let me tell you real quick who I allow. First, I allow my relationship with Jesus to influence my social decisions. If that makes me Amish, then I guess I'll eat more cheese and ride a horse and buggy. I allow Melissa to influence my social decisions. You know why I allow Melissa to influence my social decisions? Because we build a relationship on trust. And I said, with this ring I thee wed. I'll honor you, I'll cherish you, I'll value you, I'll serve you. She said the same to me. She has every password. She can get into my accounts. She has the right to call questions. If there's somebody on my social media networks that she doesn't want to be on there, you know what? She's allowed to say, I don't want them on there. If I have anybody that I'm friends with on social media that would threaten my wife, why would I want to have them on my social media account? Happy wife, happy life. Don't be an idiot. But the truth is, I value this covenant more than I value any social friendship. I value this covenant that we've made more than I value. Well, man, I'm not letting any chick control me like that. Bravo, idiot. Good. You rock that foolish thought. Let me know how that turns out for you when you crash and burn. Here's another part of the inventory. Am I wise or unwise when it comes to social media? If you're unwise, have somebody tell you. Give somebody permission to call you not smart. Right? Please, save yourself. Do my social interactions accurately represent my core beliefs? First of all, if you don't know what your core beliefs are, start there. Because if you try to value your core beliefs by your social interactions, you're going to let the tail wag the dog. So start asking, what is it I really believe? And then how should that shape my interactions? Or as Francis Schaeffer, the philosopher, said, how should we then live? If this is true, how should we then live? Because I believe this, my social choices should represent my core beliefs. And I think yours should too. And I think there's a watching world that's making decisions about who you are by the things you do. And if you're out of shape socially, I think you shouldn't stay that way. But Father, I'm grateful for today. I'm grateful for your love and your truth. I'm grateful that you care about us and you speak into our lives. I'm grateful that your word can be trusted. And I thank you that it's profitable for teaching and rebuking and correcting and instructing and encouraging in righteousness, which means right doing. Lord, I pray that you would give us eyes to see with wisdom to act. I pray that you would give us eyes to see what matters and wisdom to be involved in what counts. And I pray that you would help us to match our actions with our beliefs in a way that a watching world who needs hope and encouragement can find hope and encouragement. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, we pray. Amen.
Hello, Lifepoint. I'm Erin, and these are your Lifepoint announcements. Please join us for an important all-church meeting on Wednesday, March 11th at 6:45 p.m. There'll be a year-in-review presentation, an overview of the budget, voting for new advisory team members, and the next steps in our building expansion. Childcare will be provided for children birth through 4th grade. We want you to be part of the Lifepoint process. Learn more about God, His church, and yourself by running to first base and attending Pursue. If you have completed Pursue, round first and head to second for Purpose. We want you to be intentional about being one of Lifepoint's team players. All classes will be held Sunday, March 15th at 2 p.m. at the Lifepoint offices at 3455 Mill Run Drive on the 2nd floor. Childcare will be provided at the church. Sign up under the Events tab at Lifepoint.cc. As always, there's 3 ways to connect with Lifepoint throughout the week: on our website, Facebook, and Twitter. Thanks for watching Lifepoint Announcements.
My name's Corey Knox. I've been at the church now going on 3 years, I believe. This is my 3rd participation in the gas buy down, and this is awesome. From our church, if you draw a radius of 5 miles or 4 miles around the church, there are hundreds and thousands of people that are not only in need of Christ, but just in need, period. The gas buy down is just a great way for us to come out and be what our Pastor Brad says is the hands and feet of Christ.
My name is Eric Burkhart, and I've been coming to Lifepoint for 2.5 years. I mean, it seems like a little thing, like $1 off in gas. It's no big deal, you know, but people love it, and it's a nice way to show love to them.
Hi, I'm Kim Mahaney. We've been coming to Lifepoint for almost 2 years now. This is my 3rd gas buy down, and I enjoy coming to these because it gives us a chance to be out in the community and let people know that God loves them.